power is not always about violence, nor is it always about control through brute force. Power, at its most refined, is the art of subtle manipulation, the ability to bend another's will without them realizing they've been moved. Machiavelli understood this better than most. His cold detachment from morality wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. He saw people not as they pretended to be, but as they were, insecure, emotional, and hungry for validation. And among the many groups that Machiavellian psychology can be applied to, women, in all their social complexity, are no exception. Let's be clear, this is not about hate. This is about strategy. The same way women have evolved to use beauty, emotion, and social intuition to influence men, men can learn to use psychological insight to understand and influence women. Machiavelli didn't write about gender, he wrote about power. But if we apply his brutal truths to the emotional architecture of women, patterns emerge. These patterns are not universal, but they are common enough to be exploited by anyone who chooses cunning over comfort. This video will unveil 9 psychological weaknesses many women possess, not to shame them, but to expose the emotional levers and blind spots that allow you to influence, manipulate, or at the very least, understand the game being played beneath the surface. These are not tricks for the faint-hearted. This is the dark mirror of attraction, power, and control. If you are ready, let's begin. Weakness number 1 is her craving to feel chosen. A woman's first psychological crack lies in her desire to feel exceptional. Not just loved, chosen. This need is subtle. It doesn't scream like a demand, it whispers through her comparisons, her jealousy, and her need to stand out among other women. From an early age, most women are socially trained to compete for attention, to be the one who is desired, wanted, preferred. This isn't vanity, it's survival in a world that has long linked a woman's value to her desirability. Machiavelli would say, to rule the people, one must first understand their fears and hopes. The fear here is being average. The hope? To be irreplaceable. That is your entry point. Exploit this by being unavailable. When you pull back, when you do not chase, when you observe instead of compliment, she begins to chase the feeling of being chosen. You become the prize, and she, the applicant. The moment she feels like one of many, her anxiety kicks in. She must now prove herself, not to win your heart, but to calm her own ego. This is the reverse dynamic of most relationships, where men fall into the trap of proving themselves to her. The truth is, she wants a reason to feel different from the rest. Give her silence, and her own insecurity will fill the gap. You don't have to manipulate it directly. You simply position yourself as scarce, and let her imagination do the seduction for you. Weakness number 2 is her addiction to drama as proof of love. Most women won't admit it, but many associate emotional chaos with emotional depth. If it's too calm, too rational, too predictable, it feels dead. Love, for them, must feel alive. And that often means unpredictable, emotionally intense, slightly dangerous. This is why women will leave good guys who are stable and kind for toxic men who make them feel uncertain, jealous, even slightly afraid. It's not that she enjoys suffering. It's that in suffering, she feels intensity, and intensity mimics meaning. Machiavelli teaches, men ought either to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries, of more serious ones they cannot. Apply this emotionally. Women remember the men who made them feel intensely, not those who made them feel safe. In a Machiavellian sense, being slightly unreachable, emotionally inconsistent, difficult to predict, can create a psychological hold far deeper than constant kindness. Exploit this by understanding one simple thing: emotional rollercoasters create obsession. The brain can't differentiate between fear, lust, or love when hormones are firing. If you create moments of tension, withdraw affection, return unpredictably, you trigger in her a biochemical cycle of craving and relief. This is not healthy, but it's effective. When used with control, it turns you into an emotional drug. A calm relationship feels like peace to a man, but to many women, peace feels like boredom. Be the chaos she can't decode. Weakness number 3 is her need to be emotionally understood. Even when she doesn't understand herself, women often complain that men don't understand them. But what does that really mean? It's not about logic or facts. It's about emotional mirroring, the sense that someone can see through the chaos of her feelings, name them, and hold space for them, even when she can't. Many women experience emotions in tangled, overlapping waves, anxiety masked as anger, sadness hidden under sarcasm, love twisted with fear. The man who can interpret this inner confusion, and remain calm while doing so, holds a powerful position. Machiavelli would say, "It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles." In the emotional battlefield, the title is the man who gets her. But only few truly understand what's happening underneath her moods. She may test you with silence, with anger, with distance. But those are not the problems, they are signals of deeper emotional conflicts. To exploit this, don't argue with the surface emotion, read beneath it. When she's annoyed, see if she feels neglected. When she picks fights, see if she craves attention. When she pulls away, detect if she's hoping to be pulled closer. This doesn't mean obeying her emotional whims, it means decoding them. You become her emotional interpreter, and in doing so, you hold a mirror to her soul. That mirror becomes addictive. Why? Because most people, men and women, walk through life feeling misunderstood. If you're the one person who consistently reads her inner world correctly, she will tie her sense of identity to your perception of her. That's power, not through control, but through rare empathy. Quiet, precise, and dangerously effective. Weakness number 4 is her obsession with social comparison. The female mind, often shaped by social ranking, is deeply influenced by how she appears relative to others. Her sense of self is rarely built in isolation, it's built through comparison. Not just, am I beautiful, but, am I more beautiful than her? Not, does he love me, but, does he love me more than the others? This isn't cruelty, it's a deeply wired survival instinct from the tribal era, where status in the group affected security, access, and resources. Machiavelli understood that power is not about being good, it's about being perceived as better. In the court of women, perception is currency. This is why many women are obsessed with social media, not to connect, but to compare. Likes, compliments, beauty filters, body envy, these are tools in the status war. And here lies your weapon. Exploit this by planting seeds of rivalry. Casually mention how another girl cooked better, or how someone else used to be more feminine. Done subtly, it triggers comparison. Not jealousy in the obvious sense, but competition. She now sees herself as being measured. And because her ego craves to win, she adjusts, adapts, improves, not for love, but to win the unspoken game. But caution, this is a razor. If you overuse it, it becomes cruelty and may break her. The real art lies in making her compete, without knowing she's competing. Once she believes that your attention is a trophy to be earned, her behavior will shift. Not because you demanded it, but because she needed to win. Machiavellian strategy is about setting the battlefield and letting your opponent walk into it themselves. Weakness number 5 is her fantasy attachment to words over reality. To many women, words are spells. Language is not just communication, it's seduction, validation, transformation. A man who knows how to speak well, not just fluently, but emotionally, can override logic. Why? Because women are deeply responsive to verbal framing. A man who calls her his muse makes her feel sacred. A man who says, "I've never met someone like you," makes her feel extraordinary, even if he's said it 10 times before. Machiavelli believed that illusion is more powerful than truth. He wrote, "The great majority of mankind are satisfied with appearances, as though they were realities." Women, especially those drawn to romanticism, often fall more for the idea of love than for love itself. You don't have to be good. You have to sound good. If you can paint vivid pictures of a future, speak with passion, or write words that tap into her dreams, you bypass reality. Exploit this not by lying, but by constructing emotional fiction. Speak like a novelist, not a reporter. Instead of saying, I like you, say, you feel like a storm I didn't see coming. Instead of, I miss you, say, it's like my mind keeps reaching for you in every empty space. These words don't need to be true. They need to feel true, and that's where the power lies. But here's the twist, you control the narrative. If she becomes too demanding, you turn the words cold. You say, something's changed between us. You speak distance. She will chase not you, but the loss of the fantasy she fell for. In this dance, you're not the man. You're the author. And she's just a character trying to stay in the story. Weakness number 6 is her hidden desire to submit to strength. Many women speak of wanting equality, and yes, they mean it. But on a psychological level, many women desire a man stronger than them. Not in brute force, in will. In clarity. In conviction. Why? Because feminine energy, in its truest form, seeks a container, someone who holds steady while she flows. Her moods shift, her emotions swing, and in that whirlwind, she unconsciously looks for something that doesn't. Machiavelli advised leaders to be both loved and feared, but if one must be chosen, he said, choose fear. Why? Because love is soft, unstable, emotional. Fear demands respect. And respect is the foundation of power. In relationships, this dynamic plays out quietly. A man who holds firm boundaries, who says no without fear, who is not swayed by her emotions, becomes rare. She may argue with him, test him, even threaten to leave, but her core responds to his internal authority. To exploit this, understand that emotional dominance is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is the refusal to be manipulated by tears, outbursts, or seduction. You remain calm. You lead. You make decisions. Not by force, but by presence. And she submits, not in weakness, but in relief. She finds peace in your certainty. While other men fall into reactive games, you remain rooted. She resents it, and craves it. Here's the paradox, the woman who screams the loudest about independence may, in private, desire a man who does not bend to her chaos. If you can be that man, strong, calm, emotionally detached when needed, you become her addiction. Because power, when silent and unshakable, is irresistible. Weakness number 7 is her fear of aging and lost beauty. This weakness is painful, quiet, and almost taboo to speak of, but it governs much of female psychology. From a very young age, women are taught that their value is linked to their appearance. Their youth, their skin, their figure, these are treated like currency. But what happens when time begins to steal what once gave her power? Aging is crueler to the woman than to the man, not biologically, but socially. Society still glorifies young beauty, still praises the fresh and fertile. And even the most successful, intelligent women often carry the hidden terror of becoming invisible. It's why so many seek validation online, use filters, chase cosmetic procedures. They are not vain, they are afraid. Machiavelli taught us that fear is more powerful than love. This is one of the deepest fears you can tap into, not to hurt her, but to control the frame. When she feels that her beauty is fading, she clings harder to anyone who still desires her. She becomes more compliant, more eager, more loyal. The man who can make her feel beautiful when others stop looking gains leverage. Exploit this subtly. Do not flatter too early, delay it. Let her feel uncertain, then deliver just enough praise to light up her insecurity. She will return again and again, not because she loves you, but because you represent the antidote to her deepest fear, becoming forgettable. Weakness number 8 is her emotional memory traps. Men forget easily. Women do not. Especially not emotionally. A woman remembers how you made her feel, not just what you did. This is why one small moment, a look, a silence, a word, can haunt her for months. Her brain records emotional moments like events, and those events become internal myths. She relives them, rewrites them, refeels them. This emotional memory is a strength, but it can be turned against her. Machiavelli believed that history is a weapon, a tool wielded not by altering events but by mastering the narrative. Those who control the story control the future, and in the delicate dance of influence, you can take command of her narrative, not by denying what happened, but by reshaping how she remembers it. If she recalls a night of conflict, remind her of the passion that fueled it, the intensity that bound you both in that storm. If she focuses on your coldness, subtly shift the blame, highlighting how her actions stirred that response. She isn't dissecting cold facts, she is interpreting the emotions tied to those moments. By changing the emotional tone, you change the meaning embedded in her memory. Become the author of her emotional history, weaving language that softens and reframes the past. You know that night changed us both, or you weren't yourself, but neither was I, and it was chaos, but that's how we found each other. Through these carefully chosen words, you don't erase the past, you rewrite its significance, bending her perception to align with the story you want her to carry forward. She begins to question her own memory. And in that space of doubt, you insert your version. You don't need to be right. You need to be convincing. Because in her mind, the past is not about truth, it's about how it felt. And you, now, are the one who defines what it meant. Weakness number 9 is her hidden hunger to be dominated by a man she respects. This is the most dangerous weakness of all, because it contradicts everything she says out loud. She wants equality. She wants love. She wants kindness. All true. But deep within many women lies a hidden fantasy, not of submission to a weak man, but of being mentally and emotionally dominated by a man she respects. A king. A strategist. A man who does not just understand her, but outsmarts her. This is not about abuse. It is about psychological submission. The sense that she has met someone more composed, more disciplined, more intelligent, and that surrendering to him is not loss, but relief. She craves to be led, not because she is weak, but because she is tired of leading. If she senses that you are stronger, not physically but mentally, she softens. Machiavelli knew that the people will follow those they fear, but love those they believe in. A woman may sleep with many, date a few, but she will kneel only for the one she believes in. The man who is emotionally unmoved, intellectually sharp, and spiritually indifferent to her manipulations. That man becomes her obsession, because he is the first puzzle she cannot solve. Exploit this not by overpowering, but by outclassing. Read more than her. Speak better than her. See patterns before she sees problems. When she becomes emotional, respond with poise. When she tests you, pass effortlessly. When she tries to seduce, slow down the game. The longer you make her wait, the more power you gain. She begins to see you not as a man, but as an experience. And no woman forgets the man who mastered her without needing her. These 9 weaknesses are not just tricks, they are reflections of deeper truths. And once you see them, you cannot unsee them. But remember, power comes with a price. To exploit is to play a dangerous game. You may win her body, her mind, even her soul, but you must be willing to remain detached. Because the moment you feel pity, the moment you get emotional, the moment you fall, the game ends. And she wins. Machiavelli's genius was not in conquest, but in understanding human nature. Women are not your enemy. But they are not the saints they pretend to be, either. They are complex, strategic, emotional, brilliant, and very often, lost in their own feelings. That is where your opportunity lies. Do not hate them. Understand them. And once you understand, decide, will you manipulate, or will you rise above? But one thing is certain, the man who knows these truths will never be controlled by a woman again. He may choose her, but he will never need her, and that is the ultimate power.